Yeah, now I'm hooked. It's like hooked on phonics, right? I'm hooked back on Celsius. So
Hooked on phonics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it. Some of your listeners might not.
That's okay. But that's how you know that we're from the born and raised in the '90s, right?
No, Amy sent me the same video. I just didn't open it.
Yeah. Well, she listens to this, so
yeah, I know.
Thanks, Chris.
I know.
Anyway, let's get started. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Unleash Your Potential. My name is John Brucato. It's a great day to have a great day, and we've got a very special guest, Chris Gaytan. Man, I'm so excited for what we're going to cover today. But hey, listen, Robert is actually our co-host, Robert Video. He's out of town in Las Vegas again, right, for the second time in 2 months. And but we have a specially recorded segment of him going through our topic today, right? So that'll be plugged in. But hey, listen, the whole purpose of us getting together every week is to grow and get better, because when we get better, things get better, and it's time to level up and unleash your potential. So, good morning, Chris.
Good morning, man.
Yeah, how things going?
It's always great.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm fired up now. I'm glad we're getting to do this, dude, because you're one of my best friends, and you're one of the guys that I've seen it over the last 6 years, not to even mention the last 15 or 16 years, but have really just grown to become the greatest version of yourself, right? And obviously I know we can always get better, yeah. but man, I've just watched it in the last 6 or 7 years, the improvements that you've made and how you've inspired me to make the same changes, man.
Yeah, thanks, bro. Same back at you, man. I've seen a lot of growth and change ever since you had that baby, too.
Yeah.
Man. So it's forced you to change, right?
Yeah, I know it has. It's just really forced me to grow and change, man. And you and Crystal are balancing, too. Not just one, but two.
Yeah, 6-month-old. Well, she's about to be 6 months and a 3-year-old, so.
Yeah.
It's wild, I'm pretty sure you'll pop yours out next.
Yeah, well, listen, the vision is wait 2 or 3 years, but who knows? Yeah. Right? If God wants that sooner, it's going to happen sooner.
Competition, man. You got to keep up.
Yeah, right? That's funny. Actually, this is totally inappropriate, but I'm going to share it anyway. So when Aaron and I were trying, I don't know if you remember, but when Aaron and I were trying for our first, you and Crystal had talked about having a second.
Yeah, I remember.
And I was like, you know what? I'm going to text Chris every time.
Yeah, time it up.
Yeah, time it up, right? And that way, we can be on the same page and just help each other out,
Yeah.
That's so bad. No, but anyway, so Chris, before we get into our topic, let me ask you, man, what motivated you? Because you've been in business for yourself now 15, 16 years. 16 years. Yeah, Chris, you never had a job before. Do I understand that right?
Nah, I never worked anywhere in my life. Started in the financial industry at 18.
Yeah, so you turned 18 and then boom, got into business for yourself.
Yeah, literally on my 18th birthday. Yeah.
Wow, that's wild. That's a big decision, man. What motivated you to make that kind of decision?
The biggest motivator was my brother. My older brother was doing well in the industry. Yeah. Right. I used to make fun of him for being in the industry. I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
It's like we don't. All my family's been mechanics, so right. I didn't see an industry like this as far as like something we would do.
Yeah.
He jumped in. He started making money, man. He was pretty much taking me out to eat all the time, buying my tennis gear.
Yeah.
And I was like, where are you getting all this money from? I thought he was doing something illegal.
Yeah, it's illegal.
But yeah, so he showed me that it worked. I think that's what made the biggest decision. It was either. I come from a town called Pasadena, Texas, so it's not too far away from Houston, but it's either go to school, like continue, we call it 13th grade, it's called San Jack Central.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So everybody that you went to school with just goes there. You go to the military, you go work with your parents, or you got to move out because you got to start paying bills at 18. So I chose the financial industry, and I'm glad I chose it right. So.
Yeah. And well, obviously, just like you said, people that where you're from don't really do what you've done, right? So, man, what did you have to do, to become the person that, is successful in this industry?
Man, the number one contributor to my success, I believe, I get asked the question a lot, being at such a young age, how'd you see it? I didn't see it. I was involved with a lot of people that saw it. So I got into an industry, like I got into an industry that had a great team. That was the thing. There's a lot of people in the financial industry that me and that they're in it for themselves. It's not about team. Yeah. It's all about how much money can I make today.
Yeah.
And I got it.
Take advantage of.
Yeah. It's not even about the client, right? Yeah. So and we see that every day, right? So I tell people, I jumped into the industry, and the coaches and mentors I had, David and Jax, they were all about team, right? Even still to this day, right? And they're all about team, and they were like, let us help you become successful. So pretty much in a nutshell, man, the environment is the only reason I became who I became. If I adapted to my environment, most of my friends today, they're doing well now, but we all made bad choices. They just got caught for theirs, and unfortunately, some of them can't even work with me because of the background.
Yeah. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Well, and maybe this played a part, maybe it didn't, Chris. But I think you also had a lot of healthy pressure at that age, right? Because with you and Crystal, I mean, you got married young, and talk about that, man.
Yeah. Well, also this environment, taught me to hurry up and get married because so she's been my high school sweetheart since 14 years old. So like right at the end of ninth grade.
Yeah.
Long story short, man, David, which is the guy that coached me in business, he told me, so when are you going to marry her? So I was only 18, and I was like, I don't know, whenever it's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
He goes, you might want to marry her, ask her before someone else does. And I was like, oh, man, yeah. I was like, what do you mean? Like, is someone else looking? I thought he was trying to give me a hint that somebody else was trying to get her.
Yeah.
So we got married at 19. I proposed to her. We got married at 19. We didn't start having kids till way later, but, we got married pretty quickly, and then he told me, he goes, so where are you going to move to? And I go, what do you mean? He goes, you can't be a married man living at your house. You can't go back to your daddy's house. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I had to get an apartment. Literally, I got an apartment. And it was crazy. It was, I think, if I remember correctly, it was like $9.89 a month. And I felt like I couldn't afford it. I'd barely been in the business for myself. And anything about business.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know how your first year in business was. Mine was not great. Mine wasn't very great. So I was struggling, and he was like, you can make it happen, man. I believe in you. And because he believed in me, and he already put that healthy pressure, right, to make things happen. But it was the greatest choices I ever made. There's a few choices that changed my life forever, and proposing to my wife was obviously one of them. Yeah, one of them for sure, right?
Yeah, that's a powerful testimony, dude, because what we're gonna talk about for the next, 15, 20 minutes or so is becoming the person that you need to become to hit your goals, right? And I think your story, really is a testimony to, if you do that work, you will get what you're supposed to get.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you won't. Right.
Oh, 100%. And yours too, man. I remember you showing me that picture of you with like a mop head.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The guy, like you couldn't even see your face, right?
Yeah.
How much weight did you end up losing?
So a net or gross?
Yeah. So how much did you lose? And then I know you put some on back, but you're nowhere the guy that you used to be.
No. I came down to Houston. I was 398 pounds.
Where'd you come from again?
New Jersey.
So straight from New Jersey.
Yeah, straight from Jersey. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and I was 398 pounds, and when I went for...
Just to say it clear, 398, right?
Yeah, 398.
Yeah, so 2 pounds away from 400.
Yeah, just about 400 pounds.
And how tall are you?
Yeah, 5'6" on a good day.
Yeah. So
I was an Italian meatball, dude. Like, I was a meatball, And I got all the way down to about 185, and what I did to go from 200 to 185, if I'm being honest, it really wasn't sustainable unless I was going to become a fitness professional and that become what I do because of the lifestyle that I was living at the time. And right now I'm sitting at about 230, 240. And I've been that way for like the last couple of years.
Yeah, I see you bounce around. But when you make that decision, you dropped it quick. What I never asked you. What made you go from, because that's a transformation. You lost a whole person. How did you go from 398 to like 180 something? Or what made you want to do it too?
Yeah. So you had healthy pressure to make money because you married Crystal young and you guys moved out. I had very unhealthy pressure. Okay. It was in the relationship I was in at the time. I wasn't with Aaron, wasn't with my wife. Okay. So with somebody else that I had been with for a very long time, actually. And I was thinking those things, but it was a very unhealthy pressure. It was, hey, I don't want to be with somebody that looks this way.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And so you either change or goodbye, right?
Wow.
And it's interesting because I had uprooted my life. I went from New Jersey to Texas for this individual.
Okay.
And then Texas to California for this individual. And living in California, that's where that conversation had been had.
Really?
Right? Like, that would have been great to know 3 years ago. but no. But honestly, though, I look at it like it's a blessing, right? Because whether it was healthy pressure or unhealthy pressure, it still pushed me to become the person I needed to be to hit a goal.
Yeah.
Right? And so when people talk about, hey, I want to change this and I want to change that and I want to do this and I want to do that, they hit roadblocks, Chris.
Oh, yeah.
Why do you think people have these big, visions or these big wishes, but they don't do anything to get there? What do you think?
Why? Why they don't get started, or why did they? Why did they?
Let's say why don't they get started?
I think because they see the bigness of the goal. It's kind of like for example, I'm going out of town this weekend, right?
Yeah.
So I gotta drive 5 hours.
Yeah.
I'm not excited about driving 5 hours, but I know I got 2 little girls in the car, so I know I'm gonna have to stop every like hour. So I just plan what's my next stop. We were talking about this the other day. Like, what's your next point where you can stop and re-energize you, right? I like to run. I've ran a few marathons and stuff, and like our trainer was talking about yesterday, she was telling us that, you know, they call them aid stations where you can stop, get some water, you can stretch. Even in ultra marathons, every 15, 18 miles, there's aid stations. So I think a lot of times people, they see the bigness of the goal. Like, I know what you're trying to accomplish in the business. You know what I'm trying to do. Yeah. It's a 10-year game plan. It's not a 10-day game plan, but I think a lot of times people get that bigness of the goal it's scary, man. At least if you know what you have, if you're honest on the work that needs to be done in order to accomplish that big goal, it's not going to be easy. So sometimes you get overwhelmed. So I think you just need to break it down into bite sizes. Like, what can I do today to put me closer to the ultimate purpose, right? Yeah,
and I think you hit the nail on the head, man. It's breaking it down. What can I do today? And it's not even just about the actions you take, but the person you have to become.
Yep.
Right. You're one of the most self-developed guys I know, man. What would you say? Because there's a lot of things that go into self-improvement. Right?
Yeah,
there's a lot of things that go into it, but what would you say if people want to start improving themselves to grow? What would you think? Where do they start? What do you think?
You have to respect yourself. So I think keeping commitments to yourself.
Yeah.
I think
what do you mean by that?
If you say you're going to get up at 6 a.m. and go running, you'd be surprised how much integrity you have the rest of the day with yourself when you actually do it.
Yeah.
Like this morning, you got me to the office earlier than I normally get to the office, right, to do this podcast. And I was like, well, I told John I was going to do it. And yesterday I wasn't feeling good at all, right? So I was like, I need to go home and rest so I can be ready for tomorrow. And I feel so much better today. But I tell people, I go, like, just keeping the commitments to yourself, because it's funny, we'll keep commitments to people all the time. Like, we'll literally go out of our way to go help other people.
Yeah.
Right? That's why it's so important to have a workout buddy, right? Because you don't want to let them down. But dude, you got to start, like, you got to know you can count on you before you could ever get a team to follow you. If your goal is to have a team. But, I think keeping commitments to yourself is the first start. And then don't get so carried away with, like, I'm going to work out every single day if you haven't worked out in the last year. What if you just did, there's 7 days a week? What if you did every other day, every 2 days, right?
Yeah.
Just establish some plan and then work the plan. And I think what happens is the integrity with yourself. You start, in the book called Atomic Habits, he talks about you start casting votes for the person you want to be. So just like I said, if your goal is to go to the gym 3 times a week, then just go to the gym, right? You don't have to put a hard commitment. It has to be at 5 a.m. It could be at 5 p.m. But the goal is before that clock clicks over to the next day, just make sure you keep your commitment. I think it will start to build integrity with yourself.
Yeah, and we talk about that a lot, man. We talk about stacking wins.
Yes.
Right? Because as we can always say, you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. You got to be comfortable being uncomfortable, and that's true. But there's only so much discomfort people can take before they quit, or so much rejection. Right? We say in sales, there's only so much rejection somebody can take before they quit. Doesn't matter who you are, you will have a limit at some point.
Exactly.
Right? And so if you have no credibility with yourself, you almost create more limiting beliefs. It's like, I always do this, or I never do this. So what you're saying is start stacking wins in your favor.
Yeah, and I think that's why people have this identity crisis. Like, they feel like, Chris, like a couple people I've seen my videos and they go, how do you just turn a camera on and do it? Because I'm not posing. Like, I know what I'm talking about, right? Like, I don't record a lot of videos on lifestyle and like driving nice cars, And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's great. It's inspiring. I don't look at it as showing off. I look at it as inspiring. But I tell people, I talk about what I know, which is I talk about what we do, right? How we help people. Same thing like you, right? Like, me and you are probably 2 of the most knowledgeable people in the office about what we do. Right? So that's why we train a lot. But it's like, we know what we're talking about, right? So I think the imposter syndrome of, well, I'm not good enough to make a video, that goes away when you wake up at 6 a.m. and you kept your commitment. Or if your goal is to be a great husband, right? Then start a video on how to be a great husband, or just give advice on what you know about, right? Like, you started recently making a lot more content, right?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So what switched from, like, because you were making like a video probably every other day or something like that, now you're making a video almost every day or 2-3 times. Your face pops up on my feed all the time.
That's just because I'm good looking, bro. That's
what
the algorithm at me. That's what it is.
The algorithm knows.
He swipes right on John, man. That's weird. We're both married, but hey, it's 2024, right? We can do what we want to do.
But what made that switch? Because obviously, like, I think a lot of people don't make content. Because they're scared of what people are going to think about them. Versus like, what made that switch from like one video maybe every couple of days to now you're putting out a few a day?
I think what it was, I got okay with it not being perfect. Like even with this podcast, like if people just go back to episode 5. Like the audio was terrible, and that's because we were supposed to have one guest, and we ended up having 6, right, or 5, and we weren't prepared for that. But we could have said, "Well, shoot, we're not prepared for this. Let's just not do it."
Yeah.
So no, fuck that. Like we're gonna do it. Like we're just gonna do it, and we'll figure it out later. And great, if we have one bad episode and we got 6 or 7 good ones, cool. Everything worked out. Then we're doing. That's exactly what we're supposed to do. Is just try it and try it and try it and try it and try it. Until we get it.
Yeah, because I remember you telling me your goal was to put out a video pretty much every day, and you were telling me how much time it took you to edit it, but now you're putting them out like crazy. So you're just focused on maximizing, right? Putting out as much as you can. Regardless of how great it is or not.
Right. No, you hit the nail on the head, dude. And it's, and by the way, it's interesting that, because just like with running or anything else, the more you do it, even if it sucks in the beginning, the more you do it, the faster you get at it, and the more you can do. And now I can record 5 or 6 videos now in an hour and edit them and then be done and just ready to go.
I get asked all the time, like, "Hey Chris, I want to start running, man. What shoes should I get?" I go, "What shoes do you got?" And they go, "Oh, I got some Nike, basketball shoes. Running those." I'm like, don't worry about getting all the equipment before you start, right? Like that's one of my hesitance about my podcast, right? I have next week actually my first episode will be launching.
Where can they see it?
It's on Instagram. It's gonna start on Instagram. It's the Be the One.365, right?
Be the One.365.
Yeah, podcast. So we're putting out our first episode next week. And the biggest thing is, like, what stopped me is, again, getting all this great equipment that you got and stuff like that. But I tell people, I go, just put it out there, right? Because if you don't get started, you don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to be great, right? That always rings in my head.
Right.
So, like, at the end of the day, people always ask me, what shoes should I get? I go, just run with the shoes you got, because until you're running, you don't even know if those shoes work or not, right? Like, why are you going to go drop $200 on shoes that I'm going to recommend to you that may not even work? So I think when it comes to goals, the goal is to, like, we talk about GPS all the time, goal, plan, and get started. A lot of people do the planning, but they don't get started. They don't start at all, right?
Yeah, and I think that's a great way to wrap things up, Chris, because, we've covered a lot in such a short amount of time. Really, if you want to become the person you want to become, create some healthy or even some unhealthy pressure if it gets you to take action, right?
Absolutely.
Hopefully it's healthy and not unhealthy, right? But create pressure to take action, right? Keep commitments to yourself.
Yes.
Keep commitments to other people, so do what you say you're going to do with yourself.
Yes.
Set a goal, plan it out, but at the end of the day, just get started.
Yes. And
keep doing it, even if it's an imperfect action, because you can correct it along. You can't correct what you haven't started doing.
Yeah. Like if we were gonna push a car, right? I think I heard you say this or someone. Like if you ever had to push a car before, I have, right? Like the car's just not working, right? Like you had to push it.
Yeah.
Once you get it moving, you can steer that sucker any way you want to. You try to steer that thing when it's parked. It's almost impossible, man. Yeah. So just get moving. You can make adjustments as needed, right?
Yeah. I like that, man. So hey, as we wrap up, guys, don't forget to check us out. On Spotify. We'll be at some point. I will get with Apple Podcasts and we'll get it done. Hey, I'll just get started, right? Well, with that, but no. Hey, you can check us out on YouTube at Unleash Your Potential 2024, on Instagram at Unleash Your _Potential Podcast. And Chris, one more time, where can they find your podcast?
It's going to be on Instagram. It's also on YouTube as well. Be the One.365. It's a very simple podcast. It's going to be like 10 minutes or less. At least we're going to start there. I'm pretty sure it's probably going to go a little longer, but about 10 minutes.
That's awesome, man. Well, we're excited for you, brother. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, absolutely, man.